of band is this?
Everybody poops sometimes.
Give us this.
Wake up, sweetness.
Your first time should be more than special.
I'm in. Savannah said. Good Lord, Gemma.
When a man and a woman, in this case, really, really love each other, what happens is they fuck.
Ooh, hello?
Oh, dang it, I lost my fish.
This next word almost sounds like Quidditch. Quidditch milade Diana Agosiagath an Fiedian.
As much as I love fucking you, sweetness, we stared into each other's eyes whilst I moaned in ecstasy. Having consumed half of the bourbon, I keep saying bourbon. You know, every time I mess up on a word, Stunt Mama just shows up.
She had her seductive smile on her lips.
I said we couldn't have sex. I didn't say anything about everything else. Ew. Happy to help. Biatch. You are the spark of light and the vastness of my night. His note, like a finality to a beautiful, breathtaking song.
A breathtaking song indeed. Hi everybody. It's good to see you. Stunt Mama's mama. Getting first place. Good job. Good job. Meek. Hi. It's been a minute. How are you? Getting almost first place, also known as second place. And Mitchell Fiber Arts coming in with the almost second place. Well done. You are our finalists. Congratulations. You're on the podium. Kilobytes. Hi. Good to see you. How are ya? And Kay's here. Hi, Kay. Hope you're feeling all right today. I hope you've had a peaceful enough weekend. You feeling much better? That's good. I am the spark of his light and the vastness of his night. That's right. That was a good book. We've read, you know, thinking about that, we've read a lot of good books on this channel, in this stream, and it's been great. It really has. You know, anyone can play a video game, and there's nothing wrong with that because I love playing video games too. In fact, if we finish this book tonight, which is I think we might be able to. If we do, then I'll be playing a video game. Hi, Carly. Long time no see. If we finish this book tonight, which is the goal, when I stream on Wednesday, not Thursday, Wednesday, because I won't be here Thursday, my goal is to play a game on Wednesday, because why not? Why not? So yeah, hope everyone's had a good weekend. Here is your puzzle for the evening. I don't remember if we've done this one before, but I really like the look of it. So, enjoy. You're flying to Columbus again. Well, jeepers.
Hi there.
Sharp-dressed penguin. Hi there. Hi to you too. What's up? Boy, it's been a busy weekend, I gotta tell you. And today we wrapped up the afternoon with our final home game for the women's basketball team, which was phenomenal. It was a great game. Rexter's here. Rexter, what's up, dude? Not much, just finishing up work stuff. I feel that. Yes. I get that. I hope it goes well. Wonderful weekend. Beautiful sunny day today. It was like high of 80 here. What? It's still technically winter. Haven't even hit spring yet. And it was 80 degrees here today. That's crazy. The Weather Channel people said that the last time we had a record high was 1983, I think, for my area. And it was 74. And today was a high of 80. So we just blew that record out of the water. Boom. Gosh. Okay, so down to business. 11 days left until my affiliate status is being removed, as you can see right there above the puzzle. March 14th. Affiliate status getting chopped off the block. Hi, newbie. Good to see you. Enjoy your movie tonight. Whatever it is you decide to watch. I hope it's great. Hoping to finish this book tonight. When I come back from my trip, so I'm not streaming Thursday, we're streaming Wednesday, but we're not going to stream Thursday or Sunday because I will be gone. But when I get back, we're going to start reading this, The Fall. Looking forward to that. After Hours Broalition. For those of you that don't know, hold on. Super? My gosh, I'm sorry. Super SB, Rampage Rhino, and Zarias, all brothers, coming together under one title. After Hours Broalition. They start Monday. Go follow them. It's a brand new channel, but all of them are coming together under one banner. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. There's a lot of people that we need to shout out. But I especially want you to go follow this channel so we can get them up and running with a bang. You know what I mean? It's 3 people in one. I don't know what their schedules are yet. We'll get it figured out. It's going to be great. I feel like I missed a message. So what you're saying is gift all the subs? That is literally the opposite of what I'm saying. Don't gift any subs. Hopping between streams, we'll be back. No worries. Thank you, Killa. The schedule is on the Twitch page. All right, good. So then you can go see the schedule. It's on their page. Fantastic. 1 thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. In fact, I got a shout out in Here There Be Monsters stream earlier, like an hour ago. Someone followed, came over here, and gifted a sub. I wasn't even live yet, but they did it anyway. Super kind. But I feel bad for the people that are about to sub if they want to, if they do, or if they gift subs, because it's only going to last 11 days. Please, please, please don't throw money at Twitch on my behalf. Okay? 11 more days, and I'm going to cut the cord. The only reason I haven't cut it yet is because people that have subbed in February, I want to give them a chance to live out their sub, but please, please, please don't gift anymore. If you want to use your bits, I'm not going to stop you. If you want to donate to PayPal, I'm not going to stop you, but none of it is ever required. Okay? Please. Thank you. I don't know about Twitch workings, but can you shut off the subbing? Yes. So, newbie, when I remove the affiliate status, that will turn off the subscriptions and the bits part of it, like the barking dog, which costs 50 bits or 100 bits or however many, or that. You won't be able to do that either. Thank you, Stop Mama's Mama, for the 500 bits. That was very kind of you. That wasn't a cry for throw bits at me. K-Bud lurking while I get my PS5 connected. Ooh, enjoy the PS5. I'm sending biddies since I couldn't resub. You know what? I get that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Carly, yes. I'm removing... You'd already planned on it. Okay, see? Thinking ahead. I like it. Carly, I am removing my affiliate status, and I'm actually going to make... So everyone's aware, I'm going to make a video at some point, and then I'll play it on... Thank you for the 25 bits, newbie. You've got them. Well, I appreciate it. I'm gonna make a video that I'll play when we come back to streaming on the Thursday, the 14th, which is when we'll start this new book. And I'll play the video, and it'll help kind of reiterate why I have removed my affiliate status. And then I'll probably have it listed as a private YouTube video, and then I'll make a link for it, and then if anyone's curious and they just need a refresher, they can just find the link, go watch the video, so on and so forth. That way I don't have to sit here and interrupt everything every time. Not that I have a problem with that, but, you know, it's not necessary. I can just give you a video. Work smarter, not harder. You know what I'm saying? All right. With all that being said, I think it's time to read a book. We're on the final pages. We're starting at chapter 34. It's page 269. K. Thank you for the 25 bits. You're pulling the plug on my birthday? I guess I am. I didn't realize it was your birthday on March 14th. Happy early birthday. Happy early birthday. And now my dog is barking. I don't know if you can hear that or not. It's super awesome. I don't know why he's barking, but he is. Probably because someone walked by the house on a sidewalk. Can you imagine that? Moi to you too. Hope the stream goes well, Lurk. Enjoy your evening. Thank you. We're on page 269. It goes to page 313, I think. Like 40 chapters in total. Yeah, 313. So we don't have that much to go. And I didn't want to read like 20 pages tonight and then another 20 pages on Wednesday. That just... Okay, this wasn't a plea to say please throw bits at me. Stop it. Thank you for the 100 bits, Carly. Hi, Gemma. Why are you pulling the plug? I'm going to make a video, Gemma, that is going to explain why I'm pulling the plug. I'm still streaming. I'm just removing affiliate. But it will all make sense once I've made the video. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Actually, there better not be any boys and girls in here. This is an 18+ stream. So, ladies and gentlemen only. Chapter 34 is called Messy in Heaven. Here we go. Our house in St. Albans was just as I remembered it, and yet nothing like I remembered it. I'd been here physically a few hours ago, but at the same time, it had been 13 years ago. A lot can change in 13 years. All the baby and toddler paraphernalia had gone, so... Carly, thank you for the 400 bits. Stop it. Sit back. Relax. Let me read to you. Exactly. Just let me read to you. Do what Gemma did. In your head. It sounded way more awkward than it should have. Right. All the baby and toddler paraphernalia had gone, some to friends, some in the bin, most to charity. The decor had been updated, and an extension added to the back to accommodate another 2 bedrooms and extended the kitchen diner.
More!
Pleasure is always to lurk here. Thanks for reading to us. My pleasure. My pleasure, Meek. But. No buts. We'd lost some of the garden, but that meant less grass to cut, which was fine by me. A grand piano now took pride of place beside a huge picture window that overlooked the apple and plum trees. I had no memory of that coming. My headset. You're supposed to be lurking. Headset wasn't on, but your facial expression was perfect. Good. You're supposed to be lurking, ma'am. Right. Maybe it would appear later in my brain. Maybe it wouldn't. I wandered from room to room, marveling at Lucy's cozy little recording studio, which had once been our bedroom. The mess that indicated Mia's room, and the unnatural tidiness, and that signified I stood in Chloe's private space. Y'all, seriously. Carly? I hope that was the last of your bits. Thank you for the 42 bits. And thank you, Newbie, for the 50 with the bang. It's very loud. We're not even through the first page. I'm gonna keep going. I walked into our large bedroom, now tucked away in the quietest corner of the house, with an ensuite shower, room, and doors that opened onto the side of the garden, where the sun only shone on summer mornings. Our personal, intimate space felt both strange and familiar. Lucy and I had spent some nights apart in recent years, but not many. In this bed, we talked about the future, worried about our kids, made love, and resolved our problems. The memories of my life without my family had begun to fade, but that didn't worry me. I had it all written down. I knew how lucky and charmed my life was, and I never let myself forget that. Tonight, I'd be without my wife and daughters. Tomorrow they'd come home, and Lucy and I needed to talk. I had to decide what to say and knew that would be a challenge. I phoned Lucy, but it went to voicemail like it had every time I'd phoned her recently. I checked the call log. 11 calls had been directed to her voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I didn't know what to say. There were numerous text messages from Andy and Graham. They were my best friends. Andy dated back to my university days, and Graham I'd met in the local pub one evening when Lucy and I had been out for a meal. He introduced me to the joys of St. Albans Football Club. I now went to most home games with him. Male friends were a welcome new addition to my social circle, something sadly lacking in my previous timelines. Quite how that happened eluded me, but they added balance and perspective to my life. I texted them back confirming to Graham I'd make the match next weekend and headed off to bed. I slept okay, considering and woke early. I knew I was supposed to return to work on Monday, so that gave me 2 days with Lucy, assuming she came home today. I showered, dressed, picked at some food, paced the house, watched some old films, and pottered about in the garden. At 1:30, I heard the key in the door. I didn't get up from the couch, I just waited. I knew what she looked like in her 40th year, but part of me still remembered her as 27 when we'd walked through the door that evening 13 years ago, or yesterday afternoon. Carly. Dear Carly. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like the game Hunt Showdown, Carly has been playing that quite religiously lately. It would be my pleasure if you would check out her channel and follow if you have not. Now stop throwing bits. I lost my place in the book. Oh, wait. No. I found it. We're good. Top of page 271. Exclamation point future, by the way, if you want to know more about this book. Don't you Atkinson me, madam. Her face still looked fresh, but her eyes were tired. The amber glow had lost some of its sparkle. Her eyes looked their age, but the rest of her didn't. She flashed me a weak smile and asked, "How did it go?" "If you don't stop, I'll chuck money at you." "Stop what?" "I haven't done anything." "Good," I replied. "Where are?" "In town. I've dropped them off and gave them money to buy clothes. We need some time alone." Her tone sounded ominous. I wanted to grab her, pull her into bed. Carly, thank you for the another 100 bits. I'm just a simple man reading a book. Save your bits. Save them. But thank you. I'm not taking my shirt off. I wanted to grab her, pull her into bed, and tear her clothes off, but I decided that might not be terribly well received today. Today was for business, a day for fixing what needed fixing if it could be fixed. "Tea?" I offered. She puffed out her cheeks. "Bugger tea. White wine, please." I poured us both a glass, and we took them into the lounge and sat on the couch together, a meter apart. "How's your mum?" "I tried to phone, but..." "I know. I'm sorry. I didn't want to talk to you." "Thanks." She shrugged. That's such a lovely thing to say. I didn't want to talk to you. At least she's honest. "Mum's not good. The doctors reckon her heart's failing. Her angina's been getting worse, and she's not a good candidate for a transplant, assuming she even got on the list. Which she won't, due to her age. She needs proper care." "Bring her here." "What?" "We'll clear out our bedroom. She can have that with its own bathroom. We can move into the spare room and do
You
a
are going to have to be a little more convincing than that, sir.
It'll be fine. I'm just going to ignore you. How about that? Lucy stared at me. "Why?" "Why what?" "Why now? We've had this conversation before, and you weren't keen." "I've had some thinking time. I'll always be in debt to your mum for what she did for my mum, the girls, and you. But we both work and we'll pay for help. We can afford it. Lucy didn't speak for a moment, then said, "That will ease my mind a lot, Sam. Thank you. Don't be silly. It's what we should have done ages ago." Lucy smiled. She'd never have come ages ago. She likes her independence. She might not come now. Lucy nodded. I think she will. She's scared. She got up and refilled her glasses. Right, let's get to the heart of things. What is going on with you? I'd spent most of the previous evening and this morning trying to find a way to explain to my wife what had been going on with me. It had been a struggle because I couldn't really explain it to myself. I don't know where to start. At the beginning is usually best. Perhaps not in this case. I sipped some wine. Do you remember all those years ago? That time in Edinburgh when you stayed over after our separation? Vaguely. I remembered it like it had been a few months ago, which, in my life, it had. I made you write down many things. Some of it about shares. Mad Locust, hi. Yes, Mitchell, I am doing ASMR. I've still got that somewhere. That finance student gave you tips or something? Something like that. And they all came good, didn't they? Lucy frowned. Most of them, except Scorpex. Scorpex? I thought they were one of the best. The South African mining company that went global. The South African mining company that went tits up, you mean? When? What do you mean, Yen? When? Years ago, you... Oh, we didn't have much of them. Why do you think they went global? Good question. In my previous timeline, Scopex were one of the best known mining companies on the planet. My notebook said so. Their founder, Edward Sliss, became a famous ambassador for climate change and a leading investor in environmental technologies. That made him even more money. He and his wife, American pop singer turned fashion designer Kaylee Regis, had become global icons. And now you want the dream voice. Okay. Just pulling out all the stops tonight, aren't you?
Edward Sliss, the owner, entrepreneur, and ambassador for climate change. What happened to him? Lucy looked at me. He got eaten by ants. Eaten by ants. It was on the news, don't you remember? He got lost looking for Inca gold in the Ecuadorian mountains and got eaten by ants. So they said. I had no memory of him not being what he'd been. I wondered how someone went from marrying a pop star to being eaten by ants. I didn't even know ants ate people. I didn't say anything to Lucy. The conversation had become surreal enough already. Another fragment lost in the cloud. I wondered what had happened, or what had changed to make that happen. I'd probably never know. Lucy searched my face. What were they doing to you in that place? Electric shock therapy or something? No, nothing like that. Just trying to sort some stuff out in my head. There's nothing wrong with your head for the last 40 years. Why now? I'm trying to explain. I took a deep breath. Anyway, Scopex aside, the rest of the shares did well, giving us the money to buy this house with the help of a humongous mortgage. She nodded. The tips were good in the main. Okay, well, I also wrote myself a letter when you were pregnant with Mia. A letter? Kind of, yeah. I didn't tell you about it. The weird thing is that whilst it was in the handwriting and everything at the time, I had no memory of writing it. I know that sounds crazy. Is that why you didn't tell me in case I thought you were losing it? Maybe. I'm not sure. It seemed easier at the time as time passed not to discuss it, just in case. What was in it?
That's the dream voice. I have no idea how I sounded. I hope it was lovely. Things about the future, mainly. Like the market fall in January of 2020. I used that to make a small fortune and pay off that said humongous mortgage. You did. You said it was luck. I did. Then I also had bets on Donald Trump, Leicester City, and Emma Raducanu. You got lucky. Very lucky. It was funny, but hard to hear what you were reading. Yeah, I bet it was. I sighed. I didn't, though. I knew. Knew what? That the shares would bounce back within 8 months. You knew that Donald would run and become president before he knew himself. You also knew that Leicester City would become Premier League champions and that a virtually unknown teenage qualifier would win the US Open. You always said you were just lucky. Think back on what you just said. I know we've talked about this in the past and how lucky we were, but rationally, does that feel like luck to you? Lucy sat silent for a minute. So, what? You're clairvoyant? Are you going to buy a crystal ball and set yourself up in a circus? I'm not a clairvoyant, and until recently, I had no idea how I'd been able to predict all those things from the notes I'd made all those years ago. I mean, think about it, Lucy. Emma Raducanu was probably in nursery school when I wrote that letter. The letter you have no memory of writing. Yeah, another thing I'd written in the note was never to let your children attend an Ariana Grande concert, which didn't become an issue as neither became huge fans. Lucy went pale. You mean you guessed about the bombing? I find that hard to believe. I held my hands up. I didn't guess about the bombing. All I had scribbled down was, never let your kids go to an Ariana Grande concert. That's it. I didn't know why. It made no sense until, well, eventually it did. Why should I believe you, Sam? For the last few weeks, it's been like living with a stranger. Like the man I've known all my life had been kidnapped and replaced with a doppelganger. In my head, I'd been aware that my behavior had been out of character. The letter I'd left myself all those years ago and yesterday afternoon remained fresh in my brain. Plus, I'd written it all in my notebook. And I think we're about to read an excerpt of that notebook. Note to self, Sam. All this future knowledge / good luck you will have is not what you think it is. I won't put down here what it is as you won't believe yourself. All the things I've written above will come to pass. Trust them and make some money. But you must do one thing, or all the good might be undone. In the lead up to your 40th birthday, you must seek out a mental health program being run by Dr. Linda Yeager. You must get yourself on that program, even if you need to make a large donation to the project to do so. Once they test your genome, they'll agree. Trust me. Trust yourself. You must do this regardless of what Lucy or anyone else thinks. If you don't, everything could turn to shit. All the above will come true, but it could all unravel unless you take the final step and meet with Dr. Yeager. Lucy could die, and so could your children. You have to do it. Don't take that risk. When I'd written that all down, I didn't know if it had been or would be true. Would the whole thing unravel if I didn't go to Perry Flowers? Would I find myself back in my flat, waiting for the Rottweilers? I honestly didn't know. It made sense in my head, but nothing was clear, so I never shared it with Lucy. Lucy, I know that I've not been myself. I've been trying to deal with some things. What things? Are you having an affair? I blinked at her. What? No, of course not. I'd never. How could you think that? I love you more than anything. I couldn't. Wouldn't ever do that. Sorry. It's just that when we talked about you going onto the course and spending all that money, you were evasive, secretive, and downright weird about it. I had no idea what you were up to, so I thought the worst. I don't blame you, Lucy. I really don't. It sounds crazy even to me, but what I'm about to tell you is real. Either that or I'm certifiable, which is possible, but I'll let you decide after I've told you. I need you to believe me, but if you don't and want me to leave and live somewhere else, I will, because that will be a better outcome than any of the others so far. Any other what, Sam? You're starting to scare me. I'm scaring myself. I took a gulp of wine, pulled out my notebook, and began. So he's basically about to reveal the truth of going back in time and fixing his genome and reliving all these different lives. Lucy stared at me open-mouthed for good portions of my recital. I detected a few tears when I told my wife about her and Chloe dying in a car crash and the stroke I'd suffered years later. I brought it all up to date and stopped talking. We stared at each other for what felt like forever. And that's the end of chapter 34. Oh my goodness. I also brought tea.
Cheers.
Fantastic. Cheers indeed. Thank you. So, obviously we haven't heard how she's going to react yet, because that was the cliffhanger at the end of the chapter. But luckily for me and all of you, the book will go on. We're going to find out. Chapter 35 is called Easy on Me, starts on page 279. Again, exclamation point fourth. If you want to know more about this book or the author and other books he has written. Eventually, she said, "That's quite a story, Sam. You should have been a writer." "It's true, Lucy. Either that or I need a straitjacket." Lucy shook her head. "I don't think you're crazy, Sam, but for some reason, I can tell by the look on your face that you believe what you've just told me. To you, it's all real. But surely you must realize that it can't be true." I had a choice now. I could concede this point to Lucy and agree that I'd suffered some kind of breakdown. Then, eventually, life would return to a semblance of normality, or I could continue down the road I was on and ultimately risk losing Lucy and my girls. I'd made poor choices in the past, in several pasts, and my obstinance had gotten in the way of everything. Declining Lucy's help outside the high school that day, refusing to go traveling with her after university, blaming her success for me becoming unhappy and cheating on her. All down to me. All my fault. I had to learn from my mistakes. What did it matter now anyway? I'd made it back to my 40th year and had my family with me. Maybe they had always been with me and everything else had been an illusion. I flipped back to the earliest pages of my notebook. Dr. Yeager called it FMS, false memory syndrome. A patient can have factually incorrect recollections, but it feels like the truth to them. As you said, the person having them believes it to be reality. The trigger for it can be as unique as the individual. So, is that why you went there? To get help? I nodded. It was the truth. I went to get help, and who the hell knows, all the other stuff that had happened might all be symptomatic of the FMS. I might have been daydreaming, suffering psychotic episodes, and being delusional. All of it, to be fair, would be preferable to believing I'd been time traveling. Yes, and I needed to get onto that study. Experimental and unconventional. They call it epigenetic regression, targeting and fixing faulty genes on my genome. Epi what? I'll explain later, but anyway, I seem to be better. I smiled. For that amount of money, I'd hope so. Are you sure you've not been scammed? I hope not. You said everyone has a trigger. I'm assuming yours turned out to be the luck you've had? You know, the shares, the bets, thinking you'd become a time traveler because you thought you knew in advance what would happen. I nodded. It's as good as an explanation as any. And you're sure you're okay now? Yeah, I'll probably get some regular counselling on top just to make sure, but I reckon I'm right when and where I'm supposed to be now. I closed the gap on the couch between us and snuggled up to my wife. She kissed me, and we pushed our foreheads together like we had so many times over the years, our wine breath mingling this time. I love you, Lucy. I'm so lucky to be here with you. What, because you lost me in your previous lifetimes or whatever was happening in your head? I sighed. It felt real to me. So yes, it feels like I know what life is like without you. Plus, you'll always get fat. Nearly always. I make bad choices. Lucy flipped her tongue out and licked my top lip. Let's go to bed. I'm not tired. Neither am I. That was chapter 35. A quick chapter, but an important one. Moving right along, chapter 36 on page 282 is called Better Days. I've seen better days. Sorry. A lot of these chapter titles seem to be focused on songs. Maybe that's a coincidence. Dun dun dun. And that would probably have been it. The version of events that I told Lucy would in time have become the truth for me. I'm sure the counseling sessions I genuinely meant to arrange would have reinforced that truth in as much as time travel wasn't real, didn't exist, and therefore must be made up by my sick brain. There's a playlist for the book on the tube. You know, I heard about that, and then I totally forgot. I just don't know if I'm allowed to play it on stream. I don't know if they are stream friendly. I could get muted, and then you wouldn't hear the book at all in a recording, that would be a problem. But if any of you plan on getting a copy of the book in your own time, you can totally read the book to that music. For a few months, that's exactly what happened. I told Chloe and Mia that I'd not been well and that work and worrying had brought about a minor breakdown, which explained my strange behavior. However, now that I'd received appropriate treatment, everything should be fine. In February, I checked on the GMC register, and Dr. Janice Ramos remained registered despite the cyclone devastating the Solomon Islands. Her Facebook page had a link to Just Giving page for disaster victims. I assumed she'd taken my warning seriously, and I hope she told her parents too. I made an anonymous and generous donation and wished I could have done more. It didn't sit with the version of reality I'd told Lucy, but choosing to ignore the evidence made my life easier. One sunny Friday afternoon in early April, I was working from home, something I did most Fridays if I could get away with it. Lucy was in the West End, beavering away on a future production, not furniture. Future production, and the girls were in school. Lucy's mother, Beth, had settled into life in our house, and her health had improved. Apart from her and Lucy occasionally babbling away in Spanish, we all got on well, all things considered. Beth had thrown herself into life in St. Albans to the point where she now had a better social life than we did. Being a Friday, she had been picked up by one of her new friends from the Films Club, and they'd gone to the cinema. I'd just taken a break from editing the copy of our new electric car magazine when I heard a loud knocking on the door. I opened it to a familiar face, a face that had shown me kindness and grace when nobody else had. Elizabeth recognized me too, and invited herself inside before I could speak. "You promised to let me know what happened." "How did you find me?" "I didn't. I found your wife first. She's a celebrity." Of course, I'd forgotten telling Elizabeth all about Lucy's talent, or perhaps I'd never remembered in the first place. I sighed. "I know, I'm sorry. But that was when I believed what I believed, but now I'm no longer sure what I believe. It might all just be a false memory syndrome." Elizabeth wrinkled up her nose. "What? Both of us having it at the same time about the same stuff? I'm in permanent denial then." Elizabeth appraised the house, nodding. "Done all right for yourself this time around, eh?" I smiled. "Yeah, it all came together in the end." She plunked herself down on the couch. I made us coffee and we sat silently for a minute or so. Eventually she spoke. "I don't remember last time, but I made detailed notes." "How's Faye?" "Faye never happened." I frowned. She smiled. "Weird, huh? I know about her because I put her in my notebook, but somehow you changed that. Crazy or what?" "I'm sorry, you seemed well suited." "It's fine. I went looking for her. She moved to Seattle and is living with a nurse in a lovely old stone apartment building. She looked happy. I reckon it wouldn't have changed that much if we'd been destined to be together." I admired her philosophical outlook. "I'm with Georgia just now. She's lovely, but I don't think she's the one, if you know what I mean." "I do. When you know, you know." "What's with you now then?" She waved her mug for a refill. I obliged. I told her the story, including the awkward last month or two when I'd bought my way into Dr. Yeager's program. Elizabeth raised her eyebrows. Cheaper than the 1.25 million you were going to give her last time. I blinked at her. That much? She nodded. I'd not written that in my notebook. No wonder. I convinced you to reduce it to 150, otherwise it would have looked desperate. 50 grand seems like a bargain in comparison. I had been desperate, and it was a bargain. Elizabeth cast her eye around the room, alighting on the framed pictures of Lucy, Chloe, and Mia. Worth every penny, I'd say. I didn't disagree. She stared at me for a moment, and her expression softened. Sam, I'm so glad that it worked out for you in the end. I don't remember how I felt when I saw you in the hospital, but from what I wrote, it moved me. You've had such a rough ride that, well, let's say you weren't long for this world if you hadn't been able to change things. How you got through the previous years to that point, I don't know. Eating, mainly. I smiled. She nodded. I suppose we've both got what we wanted, but I think it's time to leave well alone now, yeah? Absolutely. There's no way I'm gambling on this. I indicated the room. No matter what. Madam Algorithm. My goodness. It's been forever since I've seen you. How the heck are you? I know you're streaming on Kick, but every time you go live, it's bedtime. It's so good to see you. How are you? Madam Algorithm goes live on Kick, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're on Kick, go look her up. It's great to see you. I also lost my place, because that's what I do. Oh yeah, no gambling. Right. What if another disaster happens? The thought hadn't occurred to me. Like what? Like your wife being killed or one or both of your daughters? That's a cheery thought. Elizabeth smiled. Sorry, I know. The harbinger of doom. That rang a bell. I didn't know how to respond. I said, oh, I don't know. I think I've used up all my goodwill with Dr. Yeager. Plus, they only have a limited supply of the stuff left. Oh, right. The other doctor's dead, isn't she? I bit my lip. Thumb gaming. Currently playing Lethal Company, by the way, because I have him up on my screen. Elizabeth said, what? I wrote her a letter just before I left, telling her what her fate might be. Elizabeth blinked at me and swallowed. And? Well, as far as I can see, she's alive and well. Her Facebook page has a Just Giving link for disaster victims, so I assume she heeded my warning. Did you say that so there'd be more chance of another trip back in the future? That hadn't been my motivation. I just thought I could help, so I did. No, it wasn't. Elizabeth didn't seem to believe me, but I don't suppose it mattered much. The atmosphere between us had cooled. I couldn't quite understand why. As far as I could see, all I'd done had been to save a lovely person from dying. Elizabeth stood to leave. I just wanted to see if you got your happy ending, and it looks like you did. Thanks for the lurk, madam. I smiled. Tears pricked the corners of my eyes, and I sniffed. I know I owe you a huge vote of gratitude. I'm not really sure how much, to be honest. Even with my notes, it's hazy, but I probably wouldn't be here without you. She stared at me momentarily. Then the coldness left her eyes. The tears slid down her cheeks. She pulled me into a huge hug. I'd like to stay in touch, but realized that might be awkward, So, let's just leave it and see what happens. You know what fate's like, huh? She kissed me, took one last look around the room and at the photos of my girls and left. I closed the door behind me and let the tears flow. Tears of joy and hurt all mixed in a little salty cocktail that trailed down my face. I washed up the mugs and opened the doors to the garden to clear the lingering scent of Elizabeth's perfume. I didn't want to explain to Lucy why a strange woman had visited me during the day. I wished I could think of a way to introduce Elizabeth to everyone without the whole time travel saga opening up again. Lucy never mentioned it anymore, and I kept my silence, though today had banished any thoughts about pretending it didn't happen. Elizabeth and I could be delusional, but when I'd spoken to her, she'd been so rational and lucid that I couldn't believe that. Later, with my brood all safe and sleeping under my roof, I snuggled up to Lucy and decided that I'd forever keep my silence on the matter. A small price to pay, considering everything. That's the end of the chapter, which, if I didn't know that there was more story, could have been a nice soft landing for it to finish. But there's more. We are not done. We are on page 288, though. The book is thinning to the end. Chapter 37 is called What's Going On? And I don't know the answer to that. But we're going to find out. 18 months had drifted past since the day Elizabeth visited me. I thought about her every so often and occasionally checked on her social media profiles. She had a Facebook account that she sporadically updated. Georgia had come and gone, and she seemed to be single for now. I did feel a pang of guilt having erased Faye from her life with some sort of twist in mind, but she understood that, or perhaps didn't understand that as much as I didn't, but at least she knew it had been beyond my control. In a week, Chloe would leave home. Bristol University beckoned. Her chosen subject, theater and film. Not quite following in her mother's footsteps, but near enough. Chloe's fascination centered on production and organizational side of the performing arts. She had little desire to be on stage. Lucy had been moody for weeks now, as had I. We'd been snapping at each other, which hardly happened. The strain and worry of losing one of our children weighed heavily on our shoulders, especially Lucy's. I had the consolation of knowing that this should never have happened and could look at it philosophically. My wife didn't have that insight. On a gloomy September Saturday morning, we all drove down to the Bristol. I think that meant to be to Bristol. Anyway, we'd bought a flat on Gloucester Road for her to live in during her tenure at the university. The apartment was situated above a line of shops, a hairdressing salon, a 7 to 11 grocery, a kebab shop, a gourmet coffee place, and a nail bar. What else would a bunch of female students need? Target? Maybe. We knew the upside to this. Our daughter going to university should have been an occasion for joy and sorrow, a real bittersweet moment. It should have been even more joyous for me given the fate that had befallen her in my past, future, or whatever the hell it was. But the effect of her moving on affected Lucy and me deeply. It felt natural, normal, and healthy, but at the same time, challenging. We would all adjust, but it would take time. The car overflowed with her stuff. The money being demanded for student halls, we decided, had been extortionate. At least this way, we'd not be forking out dead money. Plus, if Chloe decided to make her home in Bristol, after her course ended, she'd have somewhere to live. 2 other first-year girls, Ilsa and Millie, would share with her, which would cover her mortgage. Happy days. It took me back to my flat share in Edinburgh, but so far, this apartment's bathroom was immaculate. I doubted 3 girls would make a mess of things. Well, Chloe wouldn't, with her fastidious personality. When it became Mia's turn, that would be a different kettle of fish altogether. We got her settled, and with many tears all around, we drove home with a much emptier car, spiritually and physically. Although they fought like cats and dogs, Mia would miss her sister, her best friend and constant companion since birth. We both knew the separation would be as hard, if not harder, for her. Lucy had set up a few activities for them. A weekend spa break in Edinburgh and a trip to Paris in October. Oh, oui. Kettle of fish, never heard that before. Yeah, it's a very common English phrase. To me, it's just another day, another word, another phrase. It's funny though. I wasn't invited, but I was cool with that. This would be mother-daughter time. They both needed it. I knew we'd see Chloe regularly, but it would be different. She now got to make up and live by her own set of rules, not ours. And whilst being an essential part of growing up, it would be a tricky transition for all of us. Apart from the incident with Harry when she'd been 16, Chloe had been no trouble. She'd studied hard and kept herself away from being hurt again. Now she'd probably make up for lost time, but she had to live her life. A life she was lucky to have. I reminded myself constantly, whatever she did with it now would be up to her. I couldn't intervene from the future. Things were now how they should be. Lucy seemed calmer when we got home. Chloe phoned every evening for the first week. Then, as her course started and Freshers Week took over, the calls became more sporadic as she settled into her new life. They texted each other. Even I received one now and then as we settled into our new world, one daughter down. Chloe came home from the October half-term week and flew to Paris with Lucy and Mia. She also came home for Christmas with a friend, Alicia, who had nowhere to go for the festive season. Her parents had died of cancer in the last few years, and she didn't see eye to eye with her grandparents. Alicia seemed like a nice girl, with auburn hair, bright green eyes, and slim, though... wow, I can read. Auburn hair, bright green eyes, and slim, though she mostly wore baggy outfits. Initially, she came across as a little quiet, but we put her down to the fact that she'd been spending Christmas with strangers and her parents were gone. Enough to make anyone quiet. Alicia and Mia didn't seem to get on, but again, I put that down to her stealing Chloe's attention. We did our best to make Alicia feel welcome. Alright, bud, I'm off to bed. Big day tomorrow? Yes, big day indeed. Good night, sir. Thank you. Don't forget, folks, go follow After Hours Broalition. 3 brothers come together for one stream. Ba-ba-da-ba. We drove them all back to Bristol on the 8th of January. Alicia had grown in confidence during her time with us and now felt like one of the family. Alicia and Lucy's mum Beth had really hit it off, and one day had even gone off to London together for an impromptu shopping trip. We were late setting off. Then heavy traffic and heavy snow delayed us getting to Bristol. We dropped Alicia off at her residence. What? I'm sorry, breaking up the story here. Why do I feel like something bad's gonna happen? You know? Like, I realize bad things have been happening all throughout the book, and maybe that's why I'm thinking it'll just continue the theme, but this perfect ending doesn't quite... I feel like... You know what I mean? It's like right there, but you don't know what it is yet. I hope not, but at the same time, I don't know. Oh. I guess we'll find out. She'd agreed to move into Chloe's flat for the summer term when one of her current occupants, Ilsa, had arranged to go and live with her boyfriend. As neither Ilsa nor Millie had returned, we decided to stay the night and leave in the morning. The flat would be cold and devoid of food, so rather than unload Chloe's bags now, we parked the car and all four of us walked through the blizzard to an Italian restaurant less than 300 yards away. Despite the short distance, we were still cold and wet when we pushed open the door. The warm, garlic-infused air made our mouths water. I had, not that it's technically Italian, really, but Olive Garden yesterday. It was quite yummy. The food turned out to be as tasty as the aroma had promised, and the plate sizes generously portioned and not expensive. This being student land, the restaurant owner knew his target market. We'd just paid the bill and were getting ready to leave when a text pinged into my phone. "Where are you?" Unknown number. Lucy noticed my puzzled face, I assume, and asked, "What is it?" "Someone wants to know where I am." "Who?" "I don't know." "Ask." I texted back, "Who are you?" "Tell you in a minute. Where are you?" I was intrigued and replied, "Italian restaurant, Bristol, near the flat." "Yes, Gloucestershire Road. Don't move." I smiled up at Lucy. "I've not to move, apparently." "Who is it?" I shrugged. "No idea." Oh boy, what? This is it, right? This is the shoe dropping right here. Ugh. We just finished gathering our things together when the door burst open and a familiar and very beautiful face appeared and stared around the restaurant with a concerned expression. She spotted me and visibly relaxed, then rushed over and enveloped me in a huge hug, tears streaming down her face. She sobbed, "Sam, I'm so glad to see you. You have no idea." Then her tear-stained face stared into mine, and she gave me a big kiss on the mouth before falling onto me again, sobbing uncontrollably. I slowly became aware of the 3 other females at the table staring at me with open mouths. One of them had a very dark expression to accompany the open mouth. I noted that the green-eyed monster was ready to go nuclear, not without provocation. Snap. And of course, that's the end of that chapter. Well, I guess we'll leave it there for tonight. I'll see you next time. What could possibly happen? Hi, Mama House Gaming. Wow, okay. Who was it? My internet froze? We don't know. It's just a woman that came in crying. Was like, "Oh my gosh, Sam, I found you." Kissed him and then continued to sob. And of course, Lucy, his wife, is a bit peeved. Huh. And And of course, chapter 38 is titled Bruises. I mean, sounds about right. Well, I won't keep you all waiting any longer, or myself for that matter. Let's find out. Who is this? Lucy asked. Not an unreasonable query, all things considered. Dr. Janice Ramos, one of the psychiatrists from the clinic I attended. Remember? Your psychiatrist. Why is your psychiatrist
We'll
kissing
now
you?
begin the push-up section. Ready? Begin. Down.
Up. That's a great idea, Mad Locust. We'll definitely do some push-ups. In a bit. Thank you for those. I appreciate it. So, Dr. Ramos, the person he saved with the letter saying not to go back to her home country because of the dangers and dying. That's her. She just came in. Bust through the door. Let's see. Your psychiatrist. Why is your psychiatrist kissing you? A very good question, I responded. My wife took a deep breath. I know it's a good question, which is why I asked it. Janice, why are you kissing me? I asked. She gazed around at the four of us. You're still alive. Lucy took this one. We are, thank you very much. Did you kiss my husband every day at the clinic simply for being alive? If so, it might go some way to explain why he'd been so keen to go and why he paid a lot of money to do so. Janice turned her beam onto my wife, who, to be fair, was immune. You're Lucy, and this must be Chloe and Mia? Correct, Lucy said, frowning. Why are you here, kissing aside? Tears slipped from Janice's eyes. To save your lives, which I think I now have. This isn't confusing at all. Lucy ran her hand through her hair. You've saved our lives by coming here and kissing my husband. If that's what it takes, then yes. What? She replied. Lucy turned her eyes on me. Are you sure this is a psychiatrist, not a fellow patient? This made Janice giggle. I tried not to smile, but I may have smirked, which didn't help. Lucy decided she'd had enough. She picked up her bag and said, Come on, girls, let's get out of here. She stormed out of the restaurant, surprisingly pursued by Janice. I didn't rate her chances of calming Lucy down. My wife didn't go ballistic often, but when Vesuvius erupted, I'm assuming that's a volcano, it usually took a few hours for the lava to cease flowing. Chloe, Mia, and I eventually caught up with them, barely 30 yards from the flat. Janice was physically restraining my wife from moving, not an easy task given Lucy's recent gym and fitness kick. She decided that as her 40th birthday loomed, she needed to get fit and been pursuing a vigorous regime with a personal trainer / sadist / staff sergeant called Kate. 5 mornings a week. Vesuvius. Thank you. Vesuvius. As we closed the gap on them through the still heavy snowfall, Lucy yelled, Get your girlfriend off me, Sam, otherwise I will punch her in the face. I had mentioned the Vucivus. Yep. I had mentioned the Vucivus thing earlier, but hadn't mentioned it to Janice, who shouted very loudly toward me, bellying her small stature.
What time is it? I checked my watch. Nearly 8? Okay, please, Lucy, just wait for a few minutes, then I'll stop all this, Janice pleaded. Lucy decided a few minutes were a few minutes too many and promptly punched my psychiatrist girlfriend, according to Lucy, square on the nose. It erupted in a fountain of blood. I watched in shock initially as Janice crumpled and the snow turned crimson. Temporarily frozen in place at witnessing the violence, I didn't know what to do next. Obviously, there's some sort of timed event here where their lives are in danger. I'm just not sure if coming in and kissing him was the best course of action. I flipped my gaze between Janice on her knees squealing and Lucy storming along the pavement towards the flat. Janice lifted her blood-covered face to me and squeaked, "Stop her, Sam, or she'll die." I suppose it might be the different life experiences, or perhaps experiencing different lives that had made me react. Had I not lived through the various reasons for my reality, I would have questioned Janice on her sanity or reasoning, and fatally delayed. Instead, I sprinted after my wife, sliding and slipping on the treacherous snow-laden pavement, and caught up with her just outside the deserted kebab shop. Deserted mainly due to the weather and the hour. Too late for the dinner crowd, too early for the stagger home from the pub crowd. The proprietor, Usman, and his brother Asif, who were no doubt enjoying some well-earned leisure time, were then treated to a physical wrestling match, which would undoubtedly never rival any WWF tussles between myself and my wife, which subsequently became a four-way tag team bout when Chloe and Mia joined in, trying to wrench us apart. I was trying to hold on to Lucy and had locked my arms around her waist and ducked my head under her armpit to avoid the blows she'd been reduced to raining down onto my back. Painful, but bearable. Janice eventually hobbled up with her face still bloodied, and at this point, I noticed Asif reach for his mobile, no doubt to summon the police. The sight of blood usually spurred action. Then suddenly, all 5 of us were on our backs, in an untidy heap. On the pavement, in the snow. I'd also gone deaf, or rather, I had a ringing in my ears that muffled everything else. I lay and watched debris rain down on the pavement a few meters in front of us. Most of it seemed to be pieces of wood, chunks of glass and soft furnishings, detritus. I recognized only one thing as it plopped into the snow near my feet. Tabby, Chloe's teddy. I remember the trauma on her 4th birthday when she'd inadvertently left him in the soft play center where she'd had her birthday party. The soft play center had closed by the time we'd realized he was missing. Bedtime. We luckily managed to retrieve him the following morning, standing outside before it opened, to ensure no grubby-fingered toddler claimed him for themselves, following a largely sleepless night due to Tabby's absence. I also remembered from my notes the poignancy of having placed him in her little coffin during the bleakest episode of my many bleak trips back to fix my broken genome and ultimately broken lives. Chloe crawled across me in the snow to grab and pull him close to her chest. Chloe had an ample bosom, and Tabby all but vanished from view. From what I could glimpse of him, his foot seemed a little singed, but apart from that, he appeared relatively intact. More than could be said for the flat he'd been blasted from, or the downstairs hairdressers now blazing away, merrily casting an incongruous warm glow on an otherwise freezing night. I glanced across at Janice, lying on her side, staring at me. An impish grin appeared on her blood-streaked face, which made her seem a bit scary, if I'm honest. like some grinning apparition from an old Hammer horror film. I guess this is what she'd meant by saving our lives. We wisely shifted away from the detritus, and Usman and Asif warmly welcomed us into their deserted shop. Asif made another call to the fire brigade this time. Lucy was first to speak, though her voice still sounded muffled and distant. I caught what she said. What just happened? Probably the question we all wanted to know the answer to. The one person who might be able to answer it, Janice, promptly fainted. Well, I hope that's what she'd done. Asif made it a full house and called for an ambulance too. That's chapter 38. Oh boy. So now I'm wondering if Lucy... Thank you. I'm wondering if Lucy's now going to do a 180 on her "you're crazy" and actually believe this whole time travel stuff now that Janice is in the picture. Interesting. It would seem logical, right? But we'll find out. We're on page 299. That means there's only 14 pages to go. Oof. So bittersweet. Okay, thank you for the 25 bits. I appreciate it. Chapter 39. Sweet but Psycho. Oh, in other news, I forgot to mention this earlier. I got hired for a 4-episode story. I got casted as one of the main characters. I am playing the voice of a lawyer.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
And thank you. And yeah, I just started recording, or I finished recording the first scene from the first episode earlier today. So that'll be exciting. Once it's all done, I'm gonna find out where it's being played so that if you guys want to check it out, I know I'm gonna check it out. You certainly can. It's gonna be on like Spotify, Patreon, podcast stuff. You know, it's one of those like radio shows, like that kind of thing. TV show, but just voices and sound effects. So it'll be should be pretty cool. So yeah, I just started recording, and there's 4 episodes in total, as I mentioned, and it's 18 plus. I'll just say that much. So that's exciting. All right, break time's over. We need to know how this ends. I think we have 2 chapters left, maybe 3. We're on 39. 40 is right there. Yep, nope, just 2 chapters left. So here we go. Sweet but Psycho, page 299. One of the paramedics slipped and dropped the stretcher on my... Oh, yes, okay. One of the paramedic... Just gonna start over. One of the paramedics slipped and dropped the stretcher my kissing psychiatrist had been placed on. I'd never considered that this could happen. You took on trust that professional caregivers like paramedics wouldn't do something like that. But I surmised they were human and it was treacherous underfoot. Fortunately, the paramedic also called Janice, coincidentally, who'd slipped, had been carrying the bottom of the stretcher. Janice probably got a fright and the impact would have jarred her body with the ground. Both Janices perhaps were shocked, but neither seemed any worse for the slip. Plus, it did wake Janice, the psychiatrist, up. We all piled into the ambulance. The paramedics had suggested we should all get checked out. Lucy had a series of minor cuts on her forehead, and Janice, the paramedic, not the fainting psychiatrist, had removed a chunk of glass that had embedded itself into Chloe's shoulder shortly after she'd reached across and gathered up Tabby. Mia and I seemed to have gotten off lightly with just a lump on the head, for me, and a twisted ankle for her. Lucy's cuts slowly dripped blood down the left side of her face. I could almost see her brain whirring behind her eyes, but she didn't get a chance to say much, or perhaps didn't want to say much to Janice, with Janice sitting there listening to what would only be described as a surreal conversation. At the hospital, Janice and Janice went to a different part of an A&E, and we were made to wait with the other casualties. The slippery, snowy weather that night had filled the South Mead Hospital waiting room to bursting. 3 hours later, we'd been assessed. 3 hours, that's pretty good. In my ER, you could wait for 8, 10, 12, 14 hours. We'd been assessed, treated where necessary, and discharged to go home. Given that our only remaining refuge was 150 miles away, we found a hotel with rooms and collapsed into bed with exhaustion. We'd sort the mess out tomorrow. Breakfast the following day turned out to be a quiet affair. Shock probably played a part, but so did the mystery of Janice, apparently knowing our flat had been about to explode. I had some ideas, but Lucy didn't want to entertain what I'd agreed to put in the past, especially not with the girls sitting and listening. Lucy offered an alternative explanation. She might have planted a bomb. She's a psychiatrist, not a terrorist. Besides, why plant a bomb, then come and warn us about it and risk a broken nose from you in the process? I didn't know for sure her nose had been broken, but given its flattened nature the last time I'd seen it, I felt it to be a safe assumption. Lucy didn't have an answer to that, so she dropped the subject. I wanted to return to the hospital seat to see Janice and listen to her explanation, which I hoped would counter Lucy's of being a rubbish terrorist, but we had some practicalities to deal with. The police wanted to interview us concerning the explosion, and we needed to find alternative accommodation for Chloe, whose winter term started in 3 days. We also felt responsible for the other 2 girls who had been rendered homeless for the duration of the next term. Student lets were understandably scarce at that time of year, and we forked out a small fortune for a penthouse flat on Bristol waterfront overlooking the SS Great Britain. I'm sure the boat's presence added at least $300 a month to the rent. We had little choice until the insurance company decided what to do about our flat and possibly the hairdressers. The girls wouldn't be able to move in until the following Saturday, so we all put up the funds for hotel rooms until then. Plus, they'd all need new stuff. A small bonus, if it could be described as such, Chloe hadn't moved her clothes from the boot of our car, so they were fine. Our eldest daughter phoned her 2 flatmates with the news. Ilsa decided to move in with her boyfriend early, which only left Millie needing help. Plus, it meant Alicia could take her place once we sorted everything. We spent the afternoon with the Bristol police, a sarcastic detective sergeant called D.S. Brody, in his early 40s with thinning hair, and Detective Constable Karen Goldie, in her late 20s with red hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Oh, I'll see you later, Atkinson. It was nice seeing you. I'll be getting ready to stream Octopussy, James Bond at 9 Central if you'd like to stop. Well, thanks. I appreciate it, madam. And I will certainly try. Have a great night. Folks, again, go over to Kick, type in madam_algorithm, and you'll find her page. You're the coolest, and you're the coolest. I said it. She wasn't quite as cynical or sarcastic as her colleague, but she hadn't got as many years under her belt yet. He played bad cop and she played not quite so bad cop. My husband and I are big James Bond fans. Well, there you go. There you go. We all agreed before going in, not to mention the warning by the psychiatrist/terrorist. Lucy had still refused to accept that Janice hadn't planted a device. The main reasons why we'd agreed on this strategy were: 1. We had no evidence at this stage that any bomb had been planted. The fire brigade's early prognosis had indicated a gas leak. 2. It might hold up our insurance claim. And 3. It would make us sound crazy. I'm not sure why crazy had been relegated to number 3 on the list, but there you are. Let me get this straight, D.S. Brody said, checking his notes. The reason you were struggling with Miss Janice Ramos in the street, Mrs. Harris, was because she'd kissed your husband in the restaurant, and you'd got the wrong idea. Lucy nodded. He stared at my wife for a moment. Okay. What then? What was the right idea? My wife didn't have a good response. Whilst our story almost certainly sounded very fishy, D.C. Brody either couldn't identify the fish or didn't want to venture any further into what he probably put down to a domestic that had no bearing on the explosion, except, of course, that her altercation with Lucy, and then the rest of us in front of the Emir brothers, had almost certainly saved our lives. By the time we'd got through all that, it had grown too late to return to the hospital to talk to Janice, which my wife now seemed keen to do, having cogitated on it for the last 36 hours or so. She wanted answers beyond what I could offer, or what she could make up. The following day, only Lucy and I ventured to the hospital to discover that Janice had been discharged and, as far as we could tell, had gone home to Birmingham. Birmingham? That's how they talk there. No explanation would be forthcoming anytime soon. Although, she texted you. You have her number. You could just make a phone call. Perhaps. Put it on speaker. It's an option. Anyway. Lucy and I both had work commitments, and the following day we left for home with Mia, leaving Chloe and Millie in their hotel room, waiting to move into the penthouse overlooking the ship that had been the longest in the world back in 1845. The next few days were busy, which meant Lucy and I didn't see much of each other, which was probably a blessing. I wouldn't say Janice's intervention into our lives had been disastrous. We were, after all, alive and grateful to be so. But accepting my explanation, the only one I could give her, would open the can of worms that would undermine Lucy's nice, safe, and logical view of the world. It would also mean acknowledging everything she'd known to be a lie, to a certain extent. However, I'd had much longer to come to terms with it all, and whilst I didn't begin to understand it, I had accepted it, and for me, that was enough. At work in central London on the Thursday following our return from Bristol, I received a text from Janice saying she'd be heading down to our house to visit us that afternoon. I had sent numerous messages asking her to come to London, offering to travel to Birmingham, but I had not received anything back until now. I had half assumed she'd fled back to the Solomon Islands where she wouldn't get punched in the face by jealous wives. I phoned Lucy, who was already at home. Given Janice's timescale, she'd likely get there before I arrived home. I didn't want a repeat of the fisticuffs. I left early and returned before 5 to find Janice had already arrived. She and Lucy seemed to have drawn up an uneasy truths. Both were drinking wine. I hope Lucy hadn't poisoned our guest's drink, nor mine, as she handed me a glass. Janice had 2 black eyes and still had a piece of tape across the bridge of her nose. Her nose no longer looked flat, so I assumed it had been reset. Ouch. Mia had swimming after school and wouldn't be back until 7, giving us a couple of hours to sort out whatever we could. We skirted around the previous weekend's events before Lucy asked, "Why were you kissing my husband?" Of all the things that had happened, this still seemed to irk her more than anything, which I did find weird, but then I'm a man, and my brain is much simpler than a woman's with a lot of empty space. I only half agree with that statement. To be honest, I'm not sure. I believe I reacted that way because I was pleased to see he was still alive and I wasn't too late. You knew the flat would explode? She nodded. How? My wife asked, frowning. I suspected she wouldn't like the answer. Nearly 2 years ago, Sam left me a letter when he finished the program. Lucy turned her gaze to me. I shrugged and nodded towards a psychiatrist as if to say, listen to the rest. Janice continued. In that letter, he made some wild claims that, as a psychiatrist, let's say, led me to worry about his sanity. However, I grew up in a different part of the world. Here, traditional beliefs and the more spiritual aspects of life often clashed with my parents' westernized views. I personally have tried to keep more of an open mind on things that perhaps we've lost touch with over the centuries. Anyway, what do I have to lose? Sam wasn't asking me to do anything crazy, he just suggested that I invite my parents over to England for Christmas, rather than me going home, which had been my original plan. Lucy interrupted. Sorry, where are you from exactly? Oh, I thought Sam would have told you. The Solomon Islands in the South Pacific. My parents came to stay in mid-December, which felt like a small miracle as my father hardly ever took time out from his work at the university. On the 15th of January, as predicted in Sam's letter, a cyclone, probably the worst in living memory, devastated our island, and our family home was destroyed along with most of the university campus. Hundreds died, and thousands were made homeless. You probably remember it from the news at the time. Lucy shook her head. No, sorry, but then I don't get to see the news much. You're saying that Sam told you to get your mum and dad out of there before it hit? Not just that. He knew the exact date the storm would make landfall. Whilst I'd been skeptical, I'm so glad that I'd heeded his warning. She beamed over at me and appeared like she might want to hug me again, and then decided one broken nose was enough. How? Lucy asked me. I've told you, sweetie, but we'd agreed that it'd been delusional, remember? And so... She waved her hand in the air. Yes, I know all that. But how did you know what would be in the future? You told me you can only go back in time. Smart cookie, my wife. Plus, it meant that despite our agreement to forget the whole thing, she'd been brooding on it for some time. Of course she had. You're not just going to forget something like that. Anyway. I explained as best as I could about the stroke and how it added roughly 6 months to my timeline. When I got back, when I returned and undid the events that led up to me having a stroke in the first place. That meant I didn't have a stroke and didn't spend all that time in hospital and rehab. I'd also learned that my advice had been heeded and Janice didn't die. Lucy looked very confused, and I couldn't blame her. She shook her head and asked Janice, "So how did the other night come about then?" Janice began, This is where it gets confusing." She smiled at Lucy. "Even more confusing. I know what happened the other night, but it wasn't me in charge. It was an older version of me that had come back from some point in the future." She took in my wife's expression. "Look, I know it sounds crazy. Totally crazy. I get that. I'm a trained psychiatrist, for God's sake, and I know how this appears. But it's the only explanation I can give you." She paused and sipped some wine. "All I'm saying is I'm aware of what happened." She touched her nose and winced. "I'm not sure why or how it all played out. All my motivation is obviously. I had no idea before the future me arrived what was going to happen to you. Well, what nearly happened to you." Janice put her glass down and continued, "The only reason I know anything at all is that the older version of me left me a written, well, a typed explanation, and that's what I'm going off of, okay? It seems that the SPC, special protein compound that I acquired from home, is the key, had been the key to this anomaly, for lack of a better word. My parents brought over a little bit when they visited because I'd asked them to, but the region and the people they got it from were wiped out in the storm, so there is no more, and there probably will be no more." I had a question. What is the compound? Janice scoffed. "Nobody knows for sure. A few tribal elders knew how to make it, and they're all gone now. It's locally known as Fel Beta, which means feel better. In case you didn't know, English is the official language in the Solomons, but locals use a kind of Creole pidgin English most of the time, some of which is quite clear and some so obscure you haven't a clue what they're on about. Anyway, Fel Beta, or Feel Better, is its name." "How much is left?" I asked. "Not much. I keep it in a cool box in my garage, and the future me obviously decided to use it to come back and fix something on my genome that had been damaged. I'm assuming it had something to do with what happened to you all, and the guilt it probably registered somewhere inside me." She paused. "I had meant to contact you after the cyclone happened, but there seemed to be so much to do. I went back with my parents to try and help, but the mess. Our home had been swept off the hillside as if a huge hand had picked it up and flung it across the peninsula. By the time I got back to the UK, well, I wasn't sure if it was a conversation I wanted to have anymore. I felt bad about that for so long, but it seems to have eaten away at me both now and in the future, especially after what happened to you, or rather, what now didn't happen to you." She paused again and sipped her wine, staring at me. "I wasn't sure whether to tell you the next bit, but the future me wrote it down, so I suppose I should. In the original version of events, not everyone was killed. Sam, you survived, but you would have spent the rest of your life in a wheelchair mourning your lost family." She let that sink in for a moment and concluded with, "When I passed out, I'm assuming that's when I left to go back to wherever, or rather, whenever I came from, and in doing so, erased that particular stain on my genome. And for all I know, my soul too." We all sat in silence for a minute or two. Janice and I were comfortable with the explanation, now being fellow time travelers. Lucy had the difficult bit, deciding to go with it or phone someone to come and section the both of us. And that is the end of chapter 39. So now there's a third person telling Lucy about the whole time travel thing. She's still on the fence. Or at least we're assuming she's on the fence. This is the last chapter, so hopefully we'll find out. Now, I just want to remind everybody that there's no stream on Thursday. The stream is being moved to Wednesday, one day earlier. And since we're finishing this book tonight, we'll be playing a game instead, which will be a nice little break between books. I'm not here Thursday, I won't be here Sunday, so we'll stream Wednesday and then we'll pick it back up in 8 days on Thursday the 14th, which is when we start this book, The Fall. I've got new screens set up, a new video set up, it's going to be great. Can't wait. I've alerted the authors because it's written by 2 people and they know when it's starting. And yeah, should be great. We're on page 309, which means we only have 4 pages. So I'm going to do my push-ups now. I owe 20. And then we'll finish the book. My camera definitely moved. Alrighty. Thank you for those redeems. Scooch in a bit. All right. The future is about to become the past as we finish the book. Page 309, Chapter 40, The Promise. In the end, Lucy accepted our explanations to a point. We agreed that we would not share it with our daughters. They had enough on their plates with being teenagers without having their reality tilted. My wife eventually grudgingly accepted that Janice hadn't planted a bomb. The fire investigation department filed a report with the insurance company that pointed to a boiler problem that led to the leak and the subsequent explosion. Chloe had set the timer to come on at 8 p.m., igniting the gas that blew up the flat and most of the hairdressers below. Lucy never admitted that she fully believed me, even after I'd introduced her to Elizabeth and she'd added her story into the mix. Lucy and Elizabeth seemed to be on the same wavelength and hit it off. They didn't become besties as such, but they did, or do, meet up regularly. I'm sure part of the attraction was that Elizabeth could be pumped for information independently from me. Elizabeth certainly benefited as Lucy introduced her to a few of her actress buddies. Within a year, Yasmin Britton, a young actress from Brighton, moved in with her, and Elizabeth officially became a West End widow. She seemed delighted with the arrangement. I like to think that she could now put a new framed picture on her wall. Almost a year from the day of the incident, we were back in Bristol, inspecting the newly built flat that the builders had just signed off on. The insurance company had come through and provided Lucy and, by default, Chloe funds to buy new furniture and fittings, which is how we'd spent most of the day. Lucy and Chloe were wandering around the rooms, compiling a snagging list of things that needed fixing. Not a long list, but some basic things like the taps being on the wrong way round and the electric oven not working annoyed Lucy and Chloe. Mia and I were quite happy to potter about an empty flat, marvel at the new smell, and wonder how long it would take Alicia to trash her room. Alicia was a lovely girl, but on the Mia scale of tidiness. Later, Mia went to stay with Chloe in the penthouse flat we were still paying for. Lucy and I had checked into the Hilton near the motorway. We had a lovely dinner in a steakhouse restaurant nearby and stopped at a quiet bar on the way back to our hotel. We talked about our girls, Chloe into her second year now and Mia being desperate to leave school and join the RAF. She wanted to fly planes. This had been a recent development that had caught us unaware. We'd expected for her to follow her sister through the higher education system. I'm not sure I'd want to be on a plane Mia was piloting, I observed dryly. Lucy punched me on the thigh. Don't be mean. She's very clever and capable. Agreed, but not very organized. Maybe the discipline is something like the RAF would give. Maybe the discipline in something like the RAF would give her that. Lucy had a point. Lucy's correct. RAF, by the way, is Royal Air Force. Maybe, but she's got at least another year before she can even apply. She might change her mind again by then. Lucy agreed. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Lucy shuffled closer and leaned her forehead against mine, like she had done so many times from the first time sitting on the wall outside my school until now. Middle-aged parents, sitting in a bar drinking wine. I'm not saying I still completely believe everything you and your girlfriends have told me. She began and waited for me to react, but I let it go. She kissed my nose and continued. Elizabeth said something disturbing the other day. She said that the universe had it in for us. Yeah. She said that to me once, or maybe more than once. Do you think that's true? I pondered for a moment and sighed. Lucy, I honestly don't know. It's been a crazy life, or lives. I've lost you so many times, both physically and emotionally, that I'm just so thankful we've made it to this point. According to Janice, it happened again. And who knows what the future holds? Nobody does know. And from what I've learned, nobody probably should know. I kissed my wife's nose, the nose that should have been dead and buried a long, long time ago, and said, Elizabeth also said to me once that by doing what I was doing, I was trying to future-proof my life. She might have been right, and I've had some success, but don't many people try to do that? Isn't sending your kids to private school a way of trying to future-proof their lives? Or nurturing a gift like music or art is another way of doing that? What's the difference? Most of us don't have the luxury of time travel, Lucy remarked. I nodded. True, most people don't get to go back and fix what went wrong. I've been privileged enough to have been able to do that. I was also lucky that I decided to meddle and save Janice, or she'd never have been able to come back and save us. Therefore, I'd say the opposite regarding the universe having it in for us. The universe, God, whoever or whatever is in control out there has had my back. Our backs. If it all ended tonight, I'd be eternally grateful for what I now have. How did you cope? Especially burying little Chloe and me. That would have broken me. It broke me too. I had a stroke, remember? Lucy moved back and sipped her wine. If I believe all this, which I'm still struggling to do, I should never have lived this life. No, me either. No Chloe. No Mia. No us. I know. How much poorer would the world have been without them and you in it? Lucy smiled. What about Lisa and Hannah? I smiled. Poor Lisa. I made her life hell. But for her, none of that happened. She's happily married with her kids. Hannah too, she's with someone else and seems, from what I can tell from her Facebook photos, happy enough. I wrote a song for you, for us, you know, my way of dealing with all of this. I knew. What's it called? The Promise. Can I hear it? In a minute, it's on my phone. She gazed deep into my eyes. Do you ever wonder what if? You know, with Hannah especially. I laughed. Not for a second. I took her hands in mine and pulled her close, our foreheads together again. Once more, our breath mingled. Tears slipped from my eyes and slipped down both our cheeks. I'm sure that had happened once before, or maybe more than once. Never, not for 1 second. There's only ever been you, Lucy. There's only ever been you. Even when you weren't there. She kissed me, pressed play on her music app, and the universe smiled down on us. Or at least, I hoped it did. Future Proof by David Atkinson. Well done. What a nice ending. That was just very nice. Well, I hope you liked it. I enjoyed that book. It was a cool story. I'm going to post the link one more time just in case anyone else wants to take a look. Did you write this one? No. This is not written by me. We just happen to have the same last name. Given where he lives, that's not uncommon. It's not that uncommon to have Atkinson as a last name in the UK. We are not related. But an excellent book, excellent read. And
the only reason I was even able to read that book was because NFV, Not for Vanity, they were the ones that recommended it to me. So if you're ever curious about a book to read, all the books that they look at, they don't just, skim through it or look at the back and make a judgment call. They read all the books and then they link them on their website. So if you're ever curious and want a new book for yourself, go check it out. Thank you, Kay. Thank you for the 25 bits. I appreciate that. Mr. Bean is also Atkinson. Yes, Rowan Atkinson, actually. Also, sadly not related. And now you must go to bed? That's okay. I'm going to be headed there shortly myself. Monday is afoot, which means back to work. But that's okay. Parent-teacher conference tomorrow as well. Get to talk about my child and how he's doing in school, which I already know the answer to that, but thank you for being here, Kay. Get a good night's sleep. Good times. I love these readings. Thank you, Mad Locust. I appreciate it. Wednesday will not be a reading. It'll be a shooting. I'm going to play Helldivers on Wednesday. But after I play Helldivers, I will be in this Discord that I'm linking. I'll be reading or continuing to read the book Fourth Wing, which looks a lot like this. Fourth Wing is right there. So if you want to hear a story, you'll have to join Discord, and that'll start, well, basically right now. So if you think about Wednesday night, whatever time it is for you, that's when I'm going to start reading that book in Discord. So feel free to join. There's an event section where you can say you're interested, and then there'll be an event chat. That's where I'll be reading it. You obviously don't have to be on a microphone or anything, but you do need to be in there to hear what's going to happen. So anyway, yes, pew-pewing on Wednesday, reading in Discord thereafter, and then I'll be back 8 days later with a brand new book. And as always, I like to read the back of the book just to give you another hint as to what's going on. So let me read the back for you, and then we'll go right out. So this is The Fall. At the top, it says, "A gruesome murder, a missing child, a society that doesn't care, a detective who won't stop until he has answers." In a climate-ravaged near future, Lieutenant Jason Thane is on the hunt for the source of a new gene-mangling drug ravaging the streets of Philadelphia. Splice. Is it ironic that we're just talking about genes and genetics, and this one's also meddling in that? That was not, on purpose. But when a grisly murder shows up in his crime scene and a kid goes missing, he and his team are now in a race against the clock to find the killer. The investigation lands closer to home than Jason was expecting, as the privileged elite push back to maintain the status quo. The Fall is the debut novel and first book of Connor Stevens' and Brian Wiggins' The Fall trilogy. If you like The Hunger Games or Divergent, or if you like Jack Ryan or Jack Reacher, which I like all of those, then you'll love a series that combines the best of all of them in a fast-paced, thrilling mystery. So that's our book. Thursday next week. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the understanding about me removing newbie.
Thank you for the 9 bits. I will make a video that I'll play on the 14th that will help just kind of re-explain why I'm removing the affiliate status, and then anyone can go watch that anytime. I'll make it available. But until then, I hope you have a fantastic night. We are going to raid out to my buddy Thump. He is playing community games, so if you're intrigued, looks like they're doing Cards Against Humanity right now. Or no, sorry, Cards Against Formality. Never heard of that one. I assume it's pretty similar. But either way, cool guy. Love him to death. Yeah. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the bits and the love. I will see you on Wednesday if you're here. If not, have a great week. Yeah. Please, 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 please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. Get some good sleep. Have a great night.
Dude, fucking, there's like